as organizers as well, we need to be very critical at this moment right now around the American Civil Liberties Union, because I hold them partly responsible for that. They went to court to protect these white supremacists who were not saying we're going to have a rally and expose or excuse our hate speech, that we're also ready to fight and violently espouse that speech.
That was frustrating. Yeah.
No, I'm ashamed I even worked for that organization, because I used to be a national youth director. And, and the head of it is a Puerto Rican man, Anthony Romero. As a Puerto Rican, I'm doubly ashamed, because this is not about free speech. This is about white supremacists who rule from the White House to a pastor out in whatever state or in the cities in Albany, New York. This is them saying that they feel aggrieved around their white identity, and the only way to keep their white identity is to get rid of the rest of us. So for the ACLU to pick the wrong side at this moment, knowing the potentiality of what could happen because these neo-Nazis and white supremacists are on the government payroll and sitting next to Trump right now, is disgraceful and reprehensible. And I know liberals and even some progressives are not going to like it. But in these moments, this is not about This is not about being nice anymore. This is about us being able to live our lives, and our children, or if we don't have children, the actual future, being able to actually live a life free of white supremacy. And it's just been emboldened even more when a group like the ACLU supports your right to do what? Kill somebody. Maim people. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad, it's angering, it's frustrating. But in these moments, we also have to be critical and then say, well, there's a lot of other organizations that do hella good work, and it doesn't have to be them.
And you say that, I just want to say full disclosure to the listeners, who some may realize this. I'm actually currently the celebrity ambassador for racial justice for the ACLU. And so this was something that I had that I'm sort of dealing with right now too, to sort of like, I have to reach out to them and talk to them about this, because it's like, it's hard to be, it's free speech at the expense of people's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is not something I support.
This is why the ACLU feels like a white organization, because they could say, well, this is consistent. We support everyone's right to the First Amendment, but the difference is the First Amendment gets curbed if there's an immediate threat of harm. What is a more immediate threat of harm than people who are armed saying the things that they're saying? And that's, it's a very white lens of like, well, we're not used to getting harmed like this. We don't see things like that. Well, this is what happens when you're dealing with white supremacists. And with regards to the cops, I mean, there was video yesterday of white supremacists moving the boundaries that were placed by the police in front of the police, and the police doing nothing about it.
Nothing.
Not just letting it happen. Well, they need more space. Well, yeah, that's the problem. White people need more. They want more space, and you're giving them more space even in the fucking rally. I mean, and also, we just spoke to somebody who follows far-right movements, and he was saying how like 450 people have been killed within the last decade or two by white supremacist organizations, and then you want us to put faith in the cops. How many people have the cops killed in less time? So of course it's going to be hard to trust the police that they're going to do their jobs, because they've killed more people than white supremacists have.
Yeah, the numbers this year alone around the police violence, and it is surpassing any years in the past. So, and I think then at this moment, we also always have to have and take a moment to have clarity to understand that this is, again, just a systemic problem that is, and I have to say this again, right, emboldened by the highest office in the United States. Steve Gorka is a neo-Nazi and Bannon is a nationalist. And our tax dollars are paying for them right now in the White House to tell Trump which we know it would be fake if he even said it, because we obviously sometimes have to listen to the maniac speak, could not still say the word white supremacist. And somebody hit me up, like, I can't believe he can't say it. I said, how don't you believe it? He is one. He is. We have a white supremacist who's the president. So, and his boys, his gang of men and women are down with it.
Yeah.
So what are we expecting? And then what are the implications when this president does this to maybe how this also emboldens white nationalists around the world?
Yes.
And we always in the United States have to be mindful of it's happening here. It's 10 times worse what's happening to African and our Middle Eastern brothers and sisters that are refugees going into Europe and other places. It's emboldening more and more of just not white supremacy to permeate, but anti-blackness. Anti-blackness and what that means.
I remember right after the election that you kept hearing people say, no more identity politics. The problem is identity politics. And this was happening from the left. And identity politics, whenever they said it, was coded to me. It was a way to say minorities have to stop fighting, queer people have to stop fighting, women have to stop. It's coded. We have to pretend we're all together and we have to come together. It's like, no, it's coded. You're talking about us. But meanwhile, while this is happening, you don't question white supremacy. That is the ultimate in identity politics. That is the major problem of identity politics in this country is white supremacy, and it has been since the beginning. So everybody who said, like, we have to stop identity politics, that's the problem. Fuck you. You're fucking cowards.
No, fuck them. Like, fuck you 20,000 times. Like, Donald Trump ran on a white identity politics.
Yes.
That's it, period. Fuck Trump, too. Please, like, I'm like, at this point, if we think that in any shape or form, any force in this country could reason with a megalomaniac who, on top of this, is ready to send us to nuclear war, then, like Heather said, you're not paying attention. And folks not paying attention, we don't have time to try to bring them to our side. I don't have time to sit down and try to reason with you. I don't have time to try to talk to you about my humanity and what I deserve in life, what our children deserve, and what the general population in this country deserves. And I would encourage people, stop wasting your time with that shit for real. Now, what you want to waste your time is, am I an activist? Am I an organizer? How do I get down? How do I support? How do I create media that creates not only the conversations, but the organizing and activism that is needed so that we're not getting all this stuff funneled through this lens of also people in power who are elite, who are trying to figure out basically at this moment, like, how do we keep a lid on what could be a potential combustion rebellion all throughout this country? Because that's the only way we're heading. We're there now because of what happened, but we're also in these moments, we also know that we're organizers and people, whether from the underground to the above ground, we're not going to let this go down in this way. It's not like you're not going to get rid of us. The thing is now, how do we survive in America? And that's what we're figuring out right now. And we will survive. I have no doubt. Do I believe we'll take more losses? Of course. But I also believe, and that's what ultimately white supremacy is afraid of, that the majority of the world's people have and will always survive. And that includes here in America.